Now in its fourth year, Syria's civil war has displaced more than 3 million people. Over half are children. In Jordan alone, more than 300,000 children are starting new lives with limited access to education and health care.
And they're doing it all while still suffering from the psychological trauma of war. VOA's Tala Hadavi looked into how some organizations are helping them recover. Tala, you had the rare chance to meet with Syrian refugee children who are now living in Jordan. What was that like?
Well, with all the stories that I did while I was in Jordan, it was sort of guerrilla style. I sort of knew what the story was, but I didn't know what the angle was yet. So going there, specifically when you go into an environment where there's children, it was very difficult. You have to tread very carefully because you don't know how much trauma there is, how much suffering there is, and on top of it, they're children, so they might not be very comfortable speaking in front of the camera. So with these kids, it was a really interesting experience because Tala was so extremely comfortable in front of the camera. He was very well spoken and articulate and very comfortable speaking with me. So it was a really great experience. He was also, we were joking about our names being so similar, and that made things a lot more comfortable. And so it was a difficult, but it went really smoothly with this in this specific circumstance.
It is just so hard to watch him recount his experience in the camps and not feel your heart break a little bit. So how did you handle that?
I wouldn't be human if I didn't have feelings towards it or get emotional about these things. But I try to sort of strike a nice balance between the two things where I'm not suppressing my own feelings, but at the same time I'm being objective and honest to my audience. So it's a very fine line, but it's something that comes with experience, and I'm still having difficulty with it to this day.
Every 3 months, Dr. Shafiq interviews and selects 20 Syrian children from the Al Hussein refugee camp to participate in a program. Most are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, manifested in bedwetting, nightmares, aggression, and fear of social contact. Talal was one of them only a couple of months ago.
I asked him about the nightmares. Did he still have a nightmares? He said no, everything stopped, but I have good dreams about Syria, about coming back to Syria and go to the gardens, go to the families and to his home and go to the mosque.
How likely is it that he'll be able to do that and other kids like him do the same, to actually get to go home?
Well, I think that's a very difficult one. I think the positive thing with these good dreams are the fact that he is having good dreams, as opposed to the nightmares that he's had about the bad experiences. So he's going back to having those positive sort of memories of being in Syria, being at home and spending time with his grandfather that has been unfortunately killed since then. So there's a lot of uncertainty about going back, and I'm not sure it's going to happen anytime soon with the situation getting worse and worse by the day. But I think that Dr. Shafiq is just happy that these kids are having at least going from bad nightmares to some better ones and positive memories of what was.
A very difficult story, Tala. What kinds of feelings did this leave you with, and what struck you about your time with Talal, the other kids, and Dr. Shafiq?
What struck me the most is how resilient people are, right? I'm a child of immigrants myself, and I lived in a country where there was a lot of immigrants from war-torn countries, and I think, we are much stronger than we think we are. And Dr. Shafiq, for instance, himself, he fled Syria himself with his children and his wife and left everything he ever knew, but now being surrounded by children that are, having all this trauma, but he says, I put aside all my own trauma to be able to help the people. At least I'm making a difference one by one. And what he really tries to sort of reinforce is we are stronger than we think we are, and as long as we can create and foster an environment where we feel safe around each other, then we can help each other overcome a lot of the difficulty and sort of start a new life and start from beginning. May not be as hard as it seems when you first start.
If you'd like to see more of Tala's work in Jordan, you can head to voanews.com.